Welcome, everyone, to another episode of NCBA's Coffee Break series. I'm your host, Nathan Willner, and today we have two incredible guests joining us. Please welcome Sean Clark, Senior Vice President of Provana, and Deepak Rajput, Director of Contact Center at Provana. Welcome, Sean and Deepak.
Great to be here, Nathan. Thank you.
Happy to be here. Thanks, Nathan.
Sean and Deepak, we're excited to have you here. You bring a wealth of experience to the table. Each of you have 20 years in the industry. You've been at the forefront of transforming contact center operations, driving innovation, improving customer experiences. So today we're going to dive into your journey, insights, and future of contact centers. So our listeners, grab your cup of coffee, sit back, and let's get started. I'm going to start with a kind of a big picture question. That a lot of people kind of probably are wondering, why are contact centers still even relevant in a world of AI and digital technologies? So who wants to cover that one?
I'll jump right in, Nathan. That's a great question, and really, thanks for having us. I think some of the things that really charge up Deepak and I and keep us excited in this industry is that there's always change. There's always being adaptive and rolling with new technology, but leveraging what we've learned in the past to really take that next step. And we see a lot of the future in contact center in very much the same way, that we have a lot of emergence of generative AI technologies, increased options in digital options, self-service, omni-channel communication. And it's a pretty natural question that we keep hearing from our clients and our partners. What happens to the contact center in an age of AI? And our continued hypothesis remains that as we see an increased adoption of omni-channel options, increased adoption of self-service options for the consumer, there's still going to be those cases where a consumer just has to talk to an experienced, tenured agent to come to a resolution. And whatever percentage that ends up to be, we see that a well-trained, compliant, empathy showing, right, and solutions-focused contact center is going to remain an integral part of the collection industry for as far as we can see into our crystal balls.
Yeah, so that makes sense. I guess brings me to the next question is, why are firms struggling to get the right balance?
I mean, honestly, it is actually challenging to execute a tech-driven, human-powered contact center. So it's not only just requires like industry experience, understanding around consumer behavior, it requires a lot of different factors, robust framework, different kind of understanding of technologies. And a lot of firms are so tied up with their day-to-day operations like hiring, training. I mean, forget about implementing this. They even lose sight of client acquisitions, strategic goals, and things like that. So firms really do struggle to expand their operations without being bogged down by skyrocketing cost, quality issues, and other things. So it is actually challenging to do this.
Yeah, I mean, it's really an important point that you're making. And when firms do consider scaling through outsourcing, there's always some hesitation, isn't there? So do you see, pushback?
Sean, I think that's just a perception. Sean, what's your thought like regarding that pushback, regarding outsourcing and the tactical things?
We do hear about those perceptions of outsourcing really being nothing more than a lift and shift. We hear about those perceptions about outsourcing being really nothing more than a cost-cutting play. And it's something that we've really worked hard to kind of overcome those perceptions to say, there are certainly cost advantages to a robust outsourcing model, but that should not be the primary reason that you're doing it, right? This is not a lift and shift mentality. This is about how are you bringing on expert and trained, compliant resources in a scalable way. How are you leveraging an outcome-based partner who is actually focused on what are those collectors doing, right? Are they collecting the right amount of money in the right way, kind of following the procedure, following the scripts? It's not about, just kind of going through your underworked, dormant inventory and saying, how many more dials can we get? It's about adding a robust team, an extension of your team, right? With the same objectives, the same goals, and really a management and an outcome focused partner to say, we can be a part of your scaling. We can take some of those challenges off the table where it's challenging to find the right local resources. It's challenging sometimes to find the right management resources, right? Let's say you can hire 20 people into your staff. Who's going to manage them effectively, right? Do you have people with management and operations experience? Or do you have people who have experience coming through the legal process and can be a subject matter expert rather than an effective manager, right? And that's where you have to look for long-term partners, not transactional partners, not ones who are just going to say, sure, I'll take 10 cents off the hourly cost. Who are your long-term partners that are actually going to be focused on those outcomes with you and adding bandwidth rather than just looking at a cost-cutting model, which I think to really the base question is the most common misperception about outsourcing.
Yeah, I mean, that makes complete sense. I guess the question remains is what should firms, especially, debt collection law firms, look for when they think about, outsourcing their contact center operations? I mean, what kind of factors should they consider first?
So, I mean, let me start by saying that first thing that any law firm, when they're looking for a partner like this, they need to look for somebody who really have a good understanding of compliance, inside out, I would say. Because, I mean, as we all know, for collection law firms, compliance is like a privilege or optional. It's really very, very foundational aspect of their operations. So they need a partner who not only adheres to industry regulations, but really from the start integrates compliance into every aspect of the operations. And this can even, I mean, this starts at a hiring level. How are you hiring? How are you screening people? Then how are you training them on your compliance standards? How are you ongoing monitoring compliance? And this really is, again, like I keep saying, it's not a privilege. It's more around like what they're doing, how they're doing. Everything has to be very compliant. And let's not forget about empathy. Now, I talk a little bit about empathy there. Collection law firms often deal with, sensitive conversations they're having with those consumers. They're not very happy hearing from them or getting, letters and all those different paperwork from them. So the right partner should have agents trained not only on compliance, but also in terms of empathy, what is the right time, how do you negotiate, what are your negotiation skills look like, and how do you achieve high performance maintaining that compliance standard, if that makes sense.
I love those points, Deepak. And just to kind of piggyback on it, I touched on it a little bit before, but out of all of those things that you need from a collector, right? Being a collector is a hard job. And out of all of those things that you need from an effective collector, as a firm, you need to be able to scale up those resources and say, listen, there's always going to be attrition. I need to replace, 8% of my staff a month because that's just what's going to happen. And what I've seen is that a lot of firms struggle with that kind of that broader hiring. You need to interview 50 to get 20 in the door, for 10 to show up to training, for 5 to hit the production floor, and maybe you keep 2, right? And I don't know firms that have a really well kind of oiled machine to make that happen. But when you have a partner who does, right, who can look at that and say, we can build that pipeline of skilled resources, take that problem on ourselves, handle attrition, handle replacement. That's how you can have a well-staffed, compliant floor for a hard job, right? For all those things that Deepak said, they got to hit that every single day on every single call, right? And you need to make sure that you have a steady pipeline of people who are coming in who can fill that role.
Yeah, I mean, again, outlining those challenges are so important for this conversation. But what are some of the best practices to run a modern day contact center?
Yeah, I mean, we keep kind of touching around it that, the firms that don't have an AI forward strategy are really, I don't think they're going to get left behind this year, but they will next year, right? And, for a contact center to really be looking at those tools that are accessible to them, besides the omni-channel tools that we've seen developing in the industry over the last 6 or 7 years, in addition to those kind of new and shiny objects, the generative AI chatbots, right? They're blocking and tackling things that firms can do today, especially in conjunction with a partner, to say, how am I automating my compliance, right? Do I have the tools in effect to say, I have a really broad stroke of what's happening in my contact center, and I have a good handle on it? Do I have the tools that are giving our agents an empowerment to make the best decision on a call, right? Are they getting effective training? Can they access those materials at a moment's notice, right? Do they know how to leverage the next scenario, the next objection handling? And you can leverage these tools through training and technology, and really through those tools that give them those abilities, right? And finally, I would even say, Deepak, before I see what you think here, for us to be able to say all the way through the life cycle of an agent, do we have these technology controls that let us be effective, right? So right from onboarding, hire QA at the time of onboarding. Do we have continuous touch points? Do we have continuous check-ins with those QAs and those supervisors to make sure that our agents get trained right and they keep fresh, right? That they keep those tools and those pieces at their disposal.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'll get a little tactical here too. I mean, you got to build the right team for each client, each process, train them right, because I mean, it's not, one size fits all. We need to train them how to handle unpredictable scenarios, balance out empathy with professionalism, and own the situation. I mean, they need to take that ownership, especially when we talk about collection law firm scenarios. We need to, even we've been talking about technology, so we want to empower them through user-friendly technologies, but should not be like additional burden for them. I mean, I just want to kind of even touch a little bit on a use case that we just kind of figured out last year. We started with one of our key clients. I mean, they've been a long-term partner. They were having some challenges. I mean, all the items that we've been talking about, staffing, abandonment, things like that. And we just kind of kicked off a project for them. But I mean, all the other items in terms of, additional revenue, abandonment, cut down, and all those staffing problem goes away. Other than that, I mean, the additional thing that they achieved was that they started off from a Google rating of 1.8, and within 6 months, using our technology training and the way, obviously, we were collaborating with them, they were 4+ in Google rating. So an exceptional CSAT score they were able to achieve, kind of using this foundational technology plus human element and doing that with us.
Yeah, thank you for using a case study kind of to demonstrate how effective the program is. We're getting close to the end of our cup of coffee, so to speak. So for our final question is, where do you see contact centers in 2025? What's your key takeaway from what you saw in 2024? What did we learn?
So let me kind of start off, I think, with 2024. So 2024 was really interesting for us. I mean, as historically we know, law firms have not outsourced this kind of work before. So I mean, I would look at it more as an year of realization, if I may say, for the law firm industry, because the law firms actually started realizing that if they pick the right partner and we put together a right solution, a solution like this can really work and they can get a great ROI on something like this. So I mean, I'm just gonna say it was a year of realization.
I love that, Deepak, right? And kind of what did we learn in 2024, right? And I would say even I would look 1 year past, right? I don't know if we have a tremendous amount of foundational change that's happening here in 2025. I think it's going to be a steady evolution. The tools are here, the partners are here, and I think we're going to see a lot more execution by the law firms and getting this implemented. If I fast forward to 2026, where I really see the more sophisticated firms landing is in this kind of digital and human-enabled contact center hybrid, whatever that percentage ends up to be, 60-40, maybe 70-30 of consumers who can, use the tools that the law firms have put out there, the self-service, the channels by which a consumer can go out on their own terms, handle it on their own time, whatever that percentage is, 60-40, 70-30, it's still going to have calls that come back to the contact center, right? And I see that, once we have that really well-established kind of tech and human hybrid model, in 2026, that's where we're going to see the highest effectiveness of law firms being able to leverage kind of the tail end of their strategy as they focus on the blocking and tackling of executing a strong, compliant legal life cycle. They can supplement it with this strong, compliant contact center and really have, I think, increased outcomes.
No, I mean, it's really exciting. I think we've come to the end of the bottom of this cup of coffee, and this is a really great information. I really believe that with more technology and all the excitement surrounding, you still need the right team and the right people to implement it. So thank you, Provana. Thank you, Sean and Deepak, for sharing your insights, and of course for the incredible support that Provana gives the National Creditors Bar Association. And with that, we will wish our listeners a really good day, and we'll see you again on the next episode of NCBA's Coffee Break. So thank you again.